listened to them and resiliency, and like, ain't happening. And still got to go out there and do the job. But I'm really proud of our kids, really proud of our guys.
That's Louisville head coach Chris Mack just moments after the Cardinals win it at Cameron Indoor Stadium and beat the Duke Blue Devils. Welcome to this week's Chase for the Championship. We're going to get to that huge showdown in Durham in just a minute. Take a look at these scores from last night. 4 games across the conference, with 3 of them decided by 2 points, including a double OT thriller in Blacksburg. We're going to take you through all of the exciting action in the next half hour. But before we get to all of that, man, there is a new team in the top 5. Florida State has won 9 games in a row, and they're now the top-ranked team in the ACC. The Seminoles, can you believe it? I mean, they haven't lost since they went to Indiana in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, and that was just after Thanksgiving. That is WMBB's Emma Stamps reports they don't have an easy time winning on the road in Miami.
The Florida State Seminoles having a great week, moving up 4 spots, and now they sit at number 5 in the nation. And it's been a long time since that's happened. 50 years to be exact since the Noles have been in the top 5. This after they rallied past Miami after being down by 9 with just 5 minutes to play for an 83-79 win in overtime on Saturday. FSU forced 24 turnovers in that game, including 3 in a row in overtime as they picked up the 9th straight win. Devin Vassell led the team with 23 points. It was his 2nd straight game for a career high for the sophomore. He also had the most rebounds with 11 and assists with 5. MJ Walker added 19. This was another defensive win for the Noles, though, as the team picked up a 4th win in the streak, shooting less than 44%. The Noles take on Notre Dame at home on Saturday. Reporting on Florida State, I'm Emma Stamps.
All right, thanks a lot there, Emma. Florida State going to be looking for their 10th straight win in that game against Notre Dame. And that one tips off at 8. Then the Noles going to hit the road to face Virginia. It's on Tuesday at 7. All right, let's get back to those Louisville Cardinals. They'll back into the top 10 after that big win over Duke, leapfrogging the Blue Devils to move up to number 6. And joining us now to dive deeper into the Cardinals' successes, WEHT's Randall Parmley. And Randall, what was the key to Louisville's victory on Saturday, my man?
Well, Chris, in all honesty, it was just that Louisville was tougher than Duke, especially down the stretch. Of course, the Cards got out to that big lead, and they hold on for the win after the game. Duke head coach Mike Krzyzewski said it was the most physical game that he has seen in years. The Louisville defense was smothering. They held Duke to under 40% shooting, and that defense was huge down the stretch. Get this, 5 straight defensive stops for Louisville when it mattered the most. So it was defense and just out physicaling Duke on Saturday.
Out physicaling. I like that phrase. Going to borrow that one.
Is that a word?
Yeah, I like that one. Head coach Chris Mack spoke about this being an even bigger win after these two teams met last year. The Blue Devils stormed back in the second half to edge out the Cardinals by 2 in that one. But let's take it back to this season. How big will this win be for the Cardinals' confidence moving forward?
Well, it's a road win in Cameron. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than that. Of course, everybody knows the grind of the ACC. Louisville still has games, obviously, with Florida State, at Virginia. You've got a game with Duke, or I should say with North Carolina on the stretch. So knowing that they can go into these hostile situations doesn't get any more hostile than going to Cameron and get wins. It's got to be big for the Louisville psyche.
Louisville didn't have an easy time with Georgia Tech last night. The Yellow Jackets actually led for a lot of that game and had the chance to go ahead with just seconds to go.
Yep.
But Louisville held them off for the W. Tech held Jordan Ward to just 10 points on 3 of 11 shooting. Who needs to step up when he's not hitting shots?
Well, you know, that's happened a couple of times this year. It seems that as goes Jordan Wara, as goes Louisville, when a team can find a way to slow him down defensively, that's when Louisville really struggles. Stephen Enoch stepped up big last night for Louisville against Georgia Tech. He led the team in scoring with 13, and he's actually the 2nd leading scorer on the squad this year. So I think when Wara is down, it's going to have to be Enoch that bails them out. And, you know, after you get past those first 2 scorers in Enoch and Wara, then you've got guys who are averaging 8 points a game, 9 points a game. It's very balanced, especially after Warris. I think it will take more of a team effort. Look for Stephen Enoch to be big when Cardinals need him when War is off on his nights.
Definitely going to keep an eye on him, and it's good to have those guys down the bench, too, you can call on. All right, going to put you on the spot here. Cardinals have a stretch against teams who are all around 500 in conference play. Can they stay focused and keep that winning streak going?
That's the question. That's a good question, too, because that's when Louisville has ran into problems this year. And Chris Mack is the first to say it. When his teams do not come out focused, that's when they struggle. But I think they do. I think that win at Duke is going to be a big, huge shot. I think they're going to ride off a couple of wins now in a row.
All right, thanks a lot there, Randall. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye on those Cardinals very closely. Appreciate the news, man. Thanks.
All right. Thanks much, Chris.
Now, that loss to Louisville was the second in a row for Duke after they lost at Clemson earlier in the week. But the Blue Devils bounced back by blowing out the Miami Hurricanes and just running them right out of the building. Duke led this one wire to wire, getting off to a quick start. Back-to-back threes by Matthew Hurt. He went on to score 22 points in just 24 minutes. The Blue Devils doubled up Miami in the first half, leading 48-24 at the break, and controlled the game in the second, going on to win it 89-59. Point guard Trey Jones also had a big scoring game, hitting 16 points and 6 rebounds, 6 assists. That's just solid. Coach K says his team regrouped after the weekend loss, and they look so much more confident in this one.
We played really well. Our guys responded we had a heck of a day yesterday with our team from 7 in the morning till 10 at night with a couple practices, meetings, and just good stuff. And they grew from it, and all positive, all big-time positive. And they responded.
The Blue Devils will now be able to rest up a little bit before their next game. They'll look to keep that positivity going against Pitt on Tuesday night. That one tips off at 9. And after back-to-back losses to top 10 teams, Miami will be hoping things get a little easier this week. The Hurricanes travel to Chapel Hill to take on UNC. That's Saturday at noon. And then it's back home to face Virginia Tech. That one is on Tuesday at 8. And NC State, they quickly climbing up the ACC standings, and they're picking up some big wins along the way. As WNCN's Todd Gibson reports, the Wolfpack just won their first game of Virginia since all the way back in 2005.
North Carolina State had a lot of factors working against them Monday night in Charlottesville. The Pack had to play without 2 rotation players, and then late in the game, quite possibly their hottest player, DJ Funderburk, fouled out. Still, the Pack was able to somehow gut out a 53-51 win over the defending national champions.
We played a great defensive game at Virginia, and going into the game, I told our guys that if we're going to have a chance to win with 7 scholarship guys, that number one, we had to not foul, and I thought we had to be a solid defensive team, and I thought we did. We did a good job early on scoring, and then late in the second half, I thought our defense did a tremendous job. We made some big plays. When I think about the game late in the game, Jericho hit a big 3. He got a big offensive rebound. Markel hit a big 3, and then when you look at what C.J. Bryce did, he made a great shot with a pull-up. So we did some good things. We were excited. I was happy for our guys when you got some adversity like we're having, and for guys to go into Virginia and get a good win, I thought that was great for our program.
It's a tough place to play. We're beating the national champs. I went there. We played there my freshman year, and we lost there. So I already knew it was a kind of a tough place to play. But for us to overcome that and be able to win, it's such a tough place against a good team. It kind of shows what we're capable of, and as long as we keep doing the right things.
At 5-3 in the ACC, NC State is in great shape as they head to Georgia Tech on Saturday before returning home Monday night to tangle with arch rival North Carolina. Following the Wolfpack, I'm Todd Gibson.
Great stuff as always, Todd. Thank you. Virginia going to look to bounce back from that loss to the Wolfpack when they travel to Wake Forest on Sunday at noon. Then it's back home for the Cavs to host the 5th-ranked Florida State Seminoles on Tuesday at 7. WRIC's Natalie Calabate is taking a look at that tight game against NC State from the Cavaliers' perspective. Natalie?
The Virginia Cavaliers continued an up-and-down stretch this week. UVA picked up a road win over Georgia Tech on Saturday before losing a close one at home to NC State on Big Monday. The Hoos ended a 3-game losing streak with a 63-58 victory over the Yellow Jackets. 5 players had 7 points or more, led by 17 each from Jay Huff and Mamadi Diakite. But things didn't go as well at John Paul Jones Arena on Monday. After a back-and-forth first half, Virginia trailed by 2 at the break, but NC State began the second half on a 14-5 run.
The second half for us defensively was not a good start. Good offense by them. They made some tough shots, but our defense was not where it needed to be. And then as down as it was, then it turned around and then it got right.
It certainly did, as UVA scored the next 15 points to go back in front by 4 points. The lead changed hands several times the rest of the way. With NC State up 1, Virginia was forced to foul in the final seconds. After the first free throw was made, Bennett used his last timeout and gave his team their orders.
Know the score. If you can get to the rim, get to the rim. If you can't, get a good shot. And it was a little bit scrambled. We didn't have any timeouts left. Everybody was, he didn't get fouled. I kind of watched the replay as I was half shaking hands with the other team, and it didn't look like he got fouled.
The missed shot at the buzzer sent Virginia to its 4th defeat in its last 5 games, 53-51. Virginia goes back on the road Sunday, taking on Wake Forest at noon. Covering Virginia, I'm Natalie Calabat.
Thank you, Natalie. Great stuff as always. In North Carolina, can you say they can't catch a break? UNC took Virginia Tech to double overtime in Blacksburg last night, but the Hokies came out on top. As WNCN's Alyssa Ray reports, that gives the Tar Heels just 5 straight losses, 9 losses in their last 11 games. Melissa?
North Carolina has now lost 5 in a row and for the first time in program history has lost 6 straight ACC games. But it wasn't for lack of heart. Last night against Virginia Tech, the Tar Heels took them into double overtime before falling 79-77. The Heels took advantage of the Hokies' lack of bigs and fed it inside to Garrison Brooks early and often. He finished with a game-high 28 points, but it was not enough to end the losing skid.
If you'd asked me in August who our top 7 players would be, I'd tell you we don't have 4 of those 7. So we're thin, but guys got to be able to get in there and do some things. And the other team's 5-man shoots threes. It's hard for us to put Huff or Walker in the game because they can't get out and play on the perimeter defense like that. And Justin and Garrison can do a better job of that. But still, it's North Carolina playing Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech won the game tonight.
The Heels were without Brandon Robinson, who was involved in a car wreck earlier this month and was dealing with neck pain. Cole Anthony is closer to coming back to the lineup, and he could be the spark this team needs to turn it around and make a run at the end of the regular season. Covering the Tar Heels, I'm Alyssa Ray.
Good stuff, Alyssa. Thank you. UNC is going to play their first game in the Dean Dome in nearly 2 weeks when they take on Miami on Saturday at noon, and then they'll hit the road for a quick trip to NC State on Monday. That one is at 7. Virginia Tech will try to rest up before a couple of long trips on the schedule this week. On Saturday, they're going to be in Chestnut Hill to take on Boston College. That one starts at 2, and then they'll head south to Miami on Tuesday at 8. WFXR's Jermaine Farrell taking us through the Hokies past week and that marathon win last night. Jermaine?
The Virginia Tech Hokies entered this week looking to continue their hot streak. Naheem Aline broke out of a recent slump with 17 points, but it wasn't enough as Virginia Tech fell 71-69 to Syracuse in an ACC game played Saturday afternoon at Castle Coliseum. The Hokies saw their 3-game winning streak snap. Now, Tech trailed 36-28 at halftime and trailed the entire second half thanks to a 17-1 run midway through the first half by the Orange. The Hokies closed the gap to 70-69 when point guard Wabisa Bede scored on a layup and was fouled with 40.3 seconds remaining. Bede, though, missed the free throw, leaving the Hokies trailing by a point. And Syracuse's Elijah Hughes shot an air ball on the Orange's ensuing possession, giving the Hokies an opportunity to win. Coming out of the timeout, Landers Nolley, the second, missed badly on a three-pointer from the top of the key, and Tech fouled Marek Doziak with a second left. Doziak made 1 or 2 free throws from the line, and a full court heave by the Hokies came up short, giving Syracuse the victory. Naheem Aline hit 6 of 7 from the floor, including 5 triples to pace the Hokies, who shot 42.4%. Jalen Cone added 14 points, hitting 4 threes in the process. Tech made 15 three-pointers, but the Hokies needed 1 more triple for the victory.
It was a draw for me to find somebody or hopefully hit the shot, and clearly I didn't do either. I mean, next time it's going to be a better situation. We won't be that close. I just put us in a bad situation. Too far, it just was. I feel like it was a better play that could have been made that I should have made.
Yeah, we made the wrong play. That is on Mike Young. That's not on my team. We'll handle that better. And the next time, or 10 times we're in that situation, he will be a part of the, that action. That didn't work out for us. I I take all the responsibility for that.
Meanwhile, the Hokies stayed at home last night looking for a win over the reeling North Carolina Tar Heels. Tech trailed the entire second half and trailed 49-37 with less than 14 minutes remaining. But the Hokies gradually came back in the game, and they tied things at 60 on P.J. Horn's 2 free throws with 13.7 seconds left. The Tar Heels had a chance to win the game in regulation, but Garrison Brooks' 14-foot jumper was a little strong, and the game went into overtime. In the first overtime, Tech again trailed in the waning moments, but Landers Nolley II scored with 27 seconds left to tie the game at 67. North Carolina again had a chance to win the game, but Leaky Black misfired on a three-pointer, sending the game into a second overtime. In the second OT, Nolley gave the Hokies a 77-73 lead with a layup with 23 seconds remaining. North Carolina answered when Brooks scored with 9 seconds to go, but the Hokies got the last shot and made it count when Radford drove to the middle of the court, made a tough shot over Jeremiah Francis with under a second to go to win the game. The 2 points were the only ones for the game for Radford.
These last 2 games, I haven't been myself, but I think that bucket there gonna get me back in the groove. How big it was, to be honest.
I hope they're growing up. Their coach is growing older by the game. They're driving me crazy in a great way. They're awesome. They're just great to coach.
Nolley paced the Hokies with 22 points, though he made just 5 of 17 from the floor on an evening when Tech shot just under 37%. Nolley did connect on 10 of 11 from the free throw line. Jalen Cone added 18 points for the Hokies, hitting 6 3-pointers. Naheem Aline finished with 11. Wow, what a win for the Virginia Tech Hokies. They played 6 overtimes in football and, of course, 2 overtimes last night in basketball. Now, the Hokies, they improved their record to 14-5 overall. They're 5-3 in the ACC. Virginia Tech hits the road for the next couple of games at Boston College on one end of the ACC and Miami on the other end of the league. Covering the Virginia Tech Hokies, I'm Jermaine Farrell.
Thank you very much, Jermaine. And that Orange win to Virginia Tech. That was a little payback from when those two teams met in Syracuse just a few weeks ago. And as WSYR Stephen Fandy reports, Jim Boeheim's team got even more revenge when they beat Notre Dame in a close one last night.
Well, as the saying goes, once is a fluke, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a trend. And with that in mind, last night's victory means that the Orange is officially trending in the right direction. After losing at home to Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Notre Dame to start off the conference schedule, Syracuse has now successfully beaten all 3 in the rematches on the road. Notre Dame made 13 threes to just 8 for Syracuse, but the Orange won the rebounding battle by 7 and made 7 more free throws than the Irish. Elijah Hughes led the way with 26 points. Joe Girard was next in line with 15, 11 of those coming in the first half. Here's what the Hall of Famer Jim Boeheim had to say following the victory.
The thing I'm proudest of this, I mean, Notre Dame comes back, takes the lead. Buddy misses a shot, he gets his own rebound, puts it in, and somebody else makes a play. And, you know, we fight back in top, get back from, when you get caught on the road like that, it's hard. It's hard for veteran teams. And these guys just regrouped, and they made a couple defense plays, they made a couple plays on offense, and, you know, it's not that, I think Notre Dame's got a tremendous team.
So Syracuse has now won back-to-back road games this past week, both by 2 points. The Orange beat Virginia Tech 71-69 on Saturday, game in which Buddy Boeheim went off for 26, which ties a career high. Again, Elijah Hughes matched him last night with 26 points of his own against Notre Dame. Hughes is now 5-3 in conference play. That's tied for 4th in the division standings, along with NC State and Virginia Tech. Next up, a visit from Pittsburgh on Saturday. Covering Syracuse, I'm Stephen Fonte.
Thank you, Steve. Syracuse is going to take on another Big East rival, like I said, when they host Pitt on Saturday. That one is at noon, and then you can expect a lot from the Orange at Littlejohn Coliseum when they visit Clemson for a 7 o'clock tip. That one on Tuesday. Notre Dame's got a tough trip coming up this weekend when they head to Tallahassee to take on Florida State. That one tips at 8. Then it's back home for a matchup with Wake Forest on Wednesday at 7. WTTV's Dave Griffiths has the Irish perspective on last night's tight one against the Qs.
Notre Dame has plenty of stats to be proud of this year. The Irish entered the week best in the country in assist-to-turnover ratio, best in the country in fewest fouls committed per game, and senior John Mooney led the nation in rebounds per game as well. In fact, Mooney's 12th straight double-double Wednesday against Syracuse set a new Irish program record. Trouble is, all those stats are not leading to wins in the ACC. Notre Dame played just one game over the last week, the aforementioned Orange, Wednesday in South Bend. And in a second tight game against the Cuse in a month, this time things did not go Notre Dame's way at the buzzer. The Orange get the win 84-82, dropping Notre Dame to just 2-5 in league play. And the home fans at Purcell Pavilion haven't had much to cheer about lately. The Irish fall to 0-3 in the conference when playing in South Bend.
We haven't been able to close them here. You know, it's been frustrating, I think, for me and our guys. Our crowd has been great. They've been entertaining games. Kids are competing. Just haven't been able to make enough plays to finish it on either end of the floor. And we'll deal with home next week. Meanwhile, we got to go to Tallahassee, deal with a pretty good group.
Notre Dame was not at 100% while hosting the Orange this week. TJ Gibbs threw up in the first half, and Rex Pfluger had a bloody nose stuffed up to keep it clean in the second. The Irish will certainly need to be at least closer to full strength Saturday to compete in Tallahassee against 5th-ranked Florida State. Covering Notre Dame, I'm Dave Griffiths.
Thanks, Dave. Always giving out the good stuff. And after starting the month at 0-3 in the conference, Clemson is now out of the cellar, up to 4-4 in the conference there at ACC play. WSPA's Pete Yannity covering the Tigers. Close games this week. Pete?
Well, you can say the Clemson Tigers on Tuesday night won a ball game that they may not have about a month earlier. The Tigers outlasting Wake Forest 71-68, a contest they trailed by 8 in the second half, but they worked their way back in with some scrappy play near the basket. And Hunter Tyson, who had a career-high 21 points, put them ahead to stay with a putback in the final few minutes of the game. As Brad Brownell notes, his team is scrappy if nothing else, and that's been a big part of their improvement.
We've gotten better as a team. We've made a few adjustments as a staff with what we're doing, and that's helped a little bit. And then we've been fortunate to win a couple close games.
You've seen it time in, time again. Like, we just keep fighting till the end, and a lot of times we end up coming back.
If nothing else, a good bounce-back victory for the Tigers after a tough and close loss at NC State last weekend. Tigers, though, with a mighty assignment ahead as they have to travel to Louisville on Saturday. They'll take a break-even mark in the ACC at 4-4 and a record of 2 games over 500 overall at 10-8 on the road with them. Covering the Clemson Tigers, I'm Pete Yannity.
Good job there, Pete. Clemson's going to look for their second win over a top 10 team when, like you said, they host Louisville Saturday afternoon. That one's at 2. Then the Tigers back home to host the Cuse. That one on Tuesday at 7. And after beating Boston College and barely getting hedged out on the road at Clemson, Wake Forest looking to climb in the standings. Their first step, a meeting with Virginia on Sunday at noon. Then the Deacs head to South Bend to take on Notre Dame on Wednesday at 7. WGHP's Kevin Conley is looking at how the Deacs are working to move on up.
At first glance, Wake Forest is at the bottom of the ACC standings along with North Carolina. But the Deacons are just a game and a half out of 9th place with a lot of basketball to be played. Wake Forest is starting to see some freshman bigs step forward and produce some quality minutes. That is something that will have to continue, or this could be another lost season for the Deacons. In the game against Boston College the other night, Wake Forest really needed freshmen Odi Oguama and Ishmael Massoud to play well. Both did with career games. Oguama scored 16 points and grabbed 10 rebounds. Massoud scored a career-high 14 points against the Eagles.
I for sure felt like I'll be counted on and just have the opportunity to be able to play and help the team. I don't think it changed how I prepared, because regardless whether I would have went to somewhere where I wasn't going to be asked to play as much or play a lot, I just prepared the same way, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, just always be ready when my number is called. So I don't think it would have changed my preparation at all.
Expecting to play and earning playing time are two different things. Keeping a positive attitude is a must because the ACC schedule can be brutal.
I mean, it's real tough and everything, but we've been working on this throughout all of summer last year, throughout the fall, preseason, all that. We've been working, and I think it's all just been helping me prepare, get into games, do what I need to do, just listen to my coaches, and do whatever I can to help the team win.
Any type of competitive sport you play, you have to have a great deal of perseverance, this period, because you're not going to win every game. Things aren't going to go well for you every time out there because you have an opponent, and
They have things that they're trying to accomplish too. And so making sure that you have the spirit to go out night in and night out to give yourself a chance by executing offensively, defensively, and competing.
Staying the course and trusting the process is not easy for 18 or 19-year-olds who are anxious to see their highlights splashed on TV and the internet.
But we live in a world of instant success, instant notoriety, instant shot attempts, instant being a starter. And that's not real world a lot of times, especially as they move forward and continue to try to play this game professionally. So it's different, but experience helps you out. But if you're good enough, you're good enough. And some people are when they walk in the door, and some guys can grow to that level. That just depends on your journey and your path.
If Wake Forest is to improve its journey and get to the middle of the ACC, the Deacons have got to get better on the road. Wake Forest is just 1-5 in true road games this season. 3 of Wake's next 4 games are on the road. Covering Wake Forest, I'm Kevin Conley.
Thanks a lot there, Kevin. Both Pitt and Boston College were 3-4 coming into last night's game in the Steel City, and it was the Panthers that came out on top in a close one. Boston College led by as many as 14 in the first half, but Pitt used a 17-0 run across the halftime break to take the lead early in the second. The Panthers led by double digits late, but the Eagles stormed back to tie the game up, just 12 seconds left, and that's when Pitt guard Ryan Murphy, who started the game on the bench, hit a jumper to give Pitt the 74-72 win. 4 Panthers hit double figures in scoring, including Justin Champagne, who also added 10 rebounds. The Eagles were balanced, too, with 5 players in double digits. Boston College finally returns home after 2 weeks on the road to take on Virginia Tech on Saturday at 2, and they'll stay on their home court for a Battle of the Birds when Louisville comes to town on Wednesday. That one tips off at 9. Meanwhile, Pitt will hit the road for 2 this week. The Panthers visit Syracuse on Saturday at noon, and then they'll head down to Durham for a date with Duke. That one is on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Georgia Tech, they came up just short against Virginia and then led most of the way at Louisville before the Cardinals came back to win it. They're now 3-6 in conference play, but as WJBF's Brendan Robertson reports, the Yellow Jackets showing a lot of improvement. Brendan?
The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets late rally came up short Wednesday night on the road against number 6 Louisville. The Jackets falling 68-64 in a game they held the lead until the final 10 minutes of the second half. Georgia Tech had a 43-32 lead early in the half before being outscored 22-9 down the final 10.5 minutes. Louisville taking the lead with 7:33 remaining. The Jackets have lost their previous 2 games by just 9 points and have lost their last 4 ACC matchups by 23 total points. But head coach Josh Pastner is staying positive.
I know our record is not what it is, but we have gotten better. From watching the tape versus Virginia, we have gotten better, we've improved, we're a better team than what we've been. Offensively, it's the best we've been in our 4 years here. Pace of play, we've been the best. We're shooting the ball the best we've been. We're scoring the best we've been. We're still, a top 30 defensive team in the country, but the 2 areas we have to clean up are turnovers and defensive rebounding. And that's
up next. Georgia Tech will host North Carolina State on Saturday, looking for the season sweep. With the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, I'm Brendan Robertson. Back to you.
Thank you, Brandon. Georgia Tech going to look to end that losing skid against red-hot NC State. Like you said, Wolfpack going to play them on Saturday at 4. And then it's a rare January non-conference matchup for the Jackets. They'll host Division II Morehouse College. The Maroon Tigers are going to file in there on Tuesday at 7:30. 3 teams are starting to emerge at the top of the ACC standings, but this season is still as unpredictable as ever. Joining us now to make sense of it all, Jason Logan from Covers.com. And last week, man, was just wild for hoops across the board, including notable upsets in the ACC as we head towards the weekend. Where do the top ACC schools sit in the odds to win it all during March Madness?
Yeah, it is. And the past week was wild. Like you said, it shook the NCAA futures odds up. And we'll start with Duke, because Duke took one of the bigger tumbles here. They went on and they lost to Clemson. They lost to Louisville. They came back, had a one-sided win over Miami, but that couldn't stop the Dukies from tumbling down the board. They were 7-1, now as big as 11-1 to win the national title. We look at Louisville. Louisville did a little bit of a jump up. They were at 18-1 up to now around 11-1, 12-1. And then we got to go further down the board here, and we see Florida State around 30-1 to 40-1 to win the national titles. Those are the 3 teams kind of ahead in the ACC in terms of winning March Madness.
The Clemson Tigers have upset the apple cart in ACC play with a few shockers over notable programs, and now they visit the Louisville Cardinals on Saturday. The Cards escaped Cameron Indoor with a win. I say escape, but you and I both know. They did it last weekend, but they have been far from dominant. Well, is another Clemson upset brewing here or what?
Yeah, the Cards nearly fell for the letdown spot coming off of that big win at Durham. They edged Georgia Tech in overtime by 4 points. They were 13-point favorites in that game. Jordan Nwora continues to struggle, and that's the big story here. Last 2 games, he's just 6 for 23 from the field. He has a total of just 16 points in those 2 games. And another thing, he's only gotten to the foul line 4 times, and he's gone just 2 for 4 from the charity stripe. Clemson comes in. They have some talented big guys. They have some big forwards. They can push Nwora to the perimeter, and if the ice-cold shooting continues for him, Louisville may end up in a bit of a fight here on Saturday afternoon.
I can't imagine Louisville in a fight, but hey, man, we're trusting the expert here, trusting the expert. The Florida State Seminoles, by the way, 9-game win streak is among the longest in the country and absolutely makes them the hottest team in the ACC by far. The Noles are home to Notre Dame this weekend and will no doubt they're going to be the favorites. Has FSU still been a good bet against the spread during this winning run?
Well, that's the thing about the point spread. It's the great equalizer. And when we look at FSU, they haven't been that great a bet, actually. 1-9 in a row, but just 4-5 against the spread in this span. They've been favorites in all but one of those 9 games as well. FSU, they failed to cover in their last 2 outings. That includes a near loss to Miami in overtime. Now, they've played 3 of their last 4 games on the road. They get a bit of a break this week before coming back home to play Notre Dame. But Notre Dame is not rolling over for anyone. They've played in a lot of close games. Irish fans have seen this team. Their last 5 games have been decided by a combined total of 15 points. So they're keeping things close. Notre Dame just 2-3 straight up, 2-2-1 against the spread in those games. But should Florida State continue to find themselves in the holes and have to dig themselves out like they have the last 2 games, Notre Dame could maybe pull off the shocker here and end this winning streak.
Thanks, Jason. Enjoy your basketball this weekend as always. All right, let's take a look at the conference standings. There aren't any big gaps between teams, but things are starting to kind of take shape here. Louisville is now out on their own in first place. The Cardinals are 7-1, just a half game behind them. The Florida State Seminoles are checking in at 6-1, and then just a half game behind that. FSU and Duke is at 6-2. After that, the teams are starting to bunch up a little bit. Virginia Tech, NC State, Syracuse are all tied at 4th, 5-3, and there are 3 teams at 4-4 too. Pitt, Virginia, and Clemson are all and even 500 in conference play so far. Boston College is 1 game back of those teams at 3-5. Georgia Tech has played an extra game, and they come in at 3-6. Notre Dame 2-5, but they're the same number of games back as the Yellow Jackets. And finally, Miami and Wake Forest both checking in at 2-6, and UNC has just 1 conference win. They beat Notre Dame on opening night back in early November. Man, that feels like such a long time ago. 1-6 is where they are right now. And those standings could look a lot different by the time we get to next week. So be sure to join us for another chase for the championship on Thursday night. We're going to be watching to see if NC State can continue its march up the ACC leaderboard or if UNC can start to turn things around. Please, when those 2 rivals face off, they take each other in Raleigh. That's Monday night. And 24 hours later, 5th-ranked Florida State faces a tough test on the road. Virginia will be looking for some revenge when they host the Seminoles less than 2 weeks after those 2 teams squared off out in Tallahassee. Man, that's it. Come on, we got to have more basketball. Thanks for joining us for Chase for the Championship. Remember, you can always watch every episode Thursday night at 7. And until next week, and get out there and watch some of this incredible basketball you got around you. See you next Thursday. Goodbye.